Well, good evening. Wanted to get you another update on a new tornado warning that includes portions of Beaver and Lipscomb County. This is the state border right here, Texas, Oklahoma. This is the cell of concern, and you can see the red box that actually goes over into Oklahoma that represents the tornado warning. The rotation is right in here, potential rotation. There have been a couple of notches on this, but the bulk of it is either right on the Texas-Oklahoma border or just to the east of it. There's some hail behind it. We've also been watching a Pantex tower cam in Follett. There was a report from a chaser of a tornado, but it looks like it was probably just more like a lowering or what we call a scud cloud. But that, out of an abundance of caution, the Weather Service folks have issued the tornado warning. It does include Follett just to the east. You are not under immediate threat in Follett. This is still a couple of miles away, and it's moving in a south-southeasterly direction right along the Texas-Oklahoma border. So, wanted to get a quick cut in on TV. I'm not going to do continuous coverage right now unless it gets near a populated area. But we have started a new stream on all of our platforms, so you can check us there, Facebook, YouTube, News Channel 10. So once again, new tornado warning goes until 8:30 for parts of Beaver and Lipscomb County. The potential rotation, and this is just radar indicated and based on some reports from some chasers that there's a tornado right along the border. So not again near a populated area, but just to the east and eventually southeast of Follett as it continues to move southeastward. Lipscomb, you would not be in the path of this storm, even though some other storms may still go for a little while longer. So that's the update on TV. If you want to join us on our streams, we welcome you to do that. And we'll be over there here at News Channel 10. Yes. In fact, I need to change this battery. Okay, Kevin Selly in the Weather Center. As we mentioned on TV just a couple of minutes ago, new tornado warning for parts of Beaver and Lipscomb County. Right through the middle of that, you can kind of see the Texas-Oklahoma border. And so the potential rotation is right along that. And we've kind of seen some lowerings on the Follett tower cam, which I'll try and show you here in just a minute. Hard to say if it was on the ground or not, but thankfully it is largely out in open country. We're still talking about right near a highway. Let me see if I can get to my other computer here and get you a little bit more information. So Highway 15 coming eastward out of Follett, you would be driving right into that storm there. So we obviously don't want that to happen. But the general motion is right along the Texas-New Mexico. I don't know why I keep saying that. The Texas-Oklahoma border, and will go right along the border, again, continuing for Beaver and Lipscomb County. The warning actually goes over into Ellis County as well, but that's the National Weather Service office in Norman, Oklahoma. So that's not why it's not showing on the graphic right there. But the slow movement, in addition to the potential tornado, means that we would have some very heavy rain potential. And a couple of these storms have produced some at least quarter to golf ball size hail. We did have one report a little earlier outside of Perryton of a large 3-inch or baseball size hailstone. So there, we're mainly in Oklahoma as far as that hail potential, the darker red and the purple. And again, you can kind of see that it's moving in a south-southeasterly direction. So tornado warning currently will stay on for a little bit with this for parts of Beaver and Lipscomb County for a cell that is largely into a good chunk of Oklahoma. In fact, let's do a little analysis here on the fly since you're with us. Talking about this notch right there. That's the potential, the greatest potential for some rotation right there. It's not real well defined on radar, but again, we have seen some lowerings on the Follett Tower Cam. Our friend Steve Kirsch giving us use of the Pantex Tower Cams to watch that, and he's looking at it very, very carefully as well. So we're also in touch with the Weather Service, so we're going to continue to watch all of this. Let me get you the Follett Tower Cam here if we can. You'll see it move around if I can get it up. Here we go. And that's Steve kind of checking around, looking on this wall cloud. Right in the center of your picture, there's some raggedy, what we call scud clouds. Sometimes those can get fairly, well, mean looking as they reach toward the ground, but it's sort of raggedy looking in this case, and he's just sort of going back and forth there, as you can see, looking for anything on the leading edge of this storm. But that notch there, again, that I showed you a minute ago, that what we call an inflow notch is the most likely spot for a tornado. It just doesn't look real, well, sometimes we say healthy. That's to us meaning a good, solid indication of rotation on radar. It does not look like that at this moment, but there is clearly some rotation in there. That's a few miles north right now of Shattuck. I'll come back to the radar and let you see that. Before I do, I'll show you oh, is this a new warning? Hang on just a second. Okay, another one south of Perryton as well. That rotation is south of Perryton, moving away from town. That's Ochiltree County. Okay. Let me gather up some new information on that one. And I think for that one we know it. Sierra, are you here? We need to go back on TV, please.
You got 2 minutes, or do you want to do it?
I want to do it as soon as I'm able, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Drew's ready when you want.
Thank you. Okay. X3, with camera. Okay. No, that's not right. That's not right. Take. Okay. Yes, please. Okay, another update. We got 2 tornado warnings in the northeastern portion of the region. Thankfully, both of the rotation signatures are out in open country. But as you may have seen on the bug in the corner of your screen, tornado warning now for Ochiltree County, and that goes until, and this has been a coding error all night, and I apologize for that, but that will go until, what is the current time? That'll go until 8:30. Perryton is right here, so the rotation signature on the storm is right here over the highway. That's Highway 70. So you obviously don't want to travel south out of Perryton or toward Perryton from the south. Rotation signature right there, just to the west of that little, I don't know, vacation or lake spot called Wolf Creek Park. So that movement is going to continue to be south very slowly. So the potential tornado there is right along the highway. Extremely heavy rain to the east of the highway, and that will be the potential for some hail as well. Several of these have produced some quarter size or even golf ball size hailstones. Very slow movement again on to the south, right along and just to the east of Highway 70 in Ochiltree County, and that is largely out in open country right now. The other tornado warning that we are keeping an eye on is right along the Texas and Texas-Oklahoma border. The rotation signature on that one has largely been right along the border or just to the east into Oklahoma across portions of Ellis County. The movement on that one is obviously southerly as well. So again, not overpopulated area, but Shattuck would be the next spot, which would be in line for that storm there. You can see as we close in a little bit and look at that, it's still probably, well, the rotation part, if it holds together, is still probably 15 to 20 minutes away, so time to go ahead and Shattuck. In fact, I would go ahead and get to your safe place, be ready to get to your safe place. There's likely some hail with this storm as well. As that gets closer, you got, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes to bring the car inside if you want to do something like that. And then the tornado signature, Shattuck, you're not officially included in the warning, but the tornado signature is still, again, about 15 to 20 minutes away. So both out in open country at this point in time. Lipscomb, you're in pretty good shape. As far as the rotation signature on our other Ochiltree County storm, that's going right southward along Highway 70 in the southern portion of Ochiltree County. But some rotation, or the rotation signature on that storm, is pretty solid. So once both of these, if and when they both get to a more populated area, we'll come back on TV and give you an update. And then we'll continue on our stream on all of our platforms. That's going to be NewsChannel10.com and YouTube and Facebook, of course. So once again, for TV, thank you for staying with us here at News Channel 10. Keep an eye on the bug in the corner of your screen. That will keep you updated as well. And we'll try and come back in just a little bit with an update here at News Channel 10. Okay, I'm going to stick with this for a little while longer here on the stream. We've got a couple of things going on. In fact, let me just take off the radar for a minute and give you an update there. Several, obviously, polygons. The red one, or red ones, is the tornado warning. The yellow ones, severe thunderstorm warning. So principal threat there, some strong straight line gusty winds. And that could go 50, even 60 miles per hour. And we got a couple of green boxes, which are flood advisories, because with the slow movement of these storms, it's obviously coming down pretty heavy, and the runoff could continue to be a large problem. Okay, let me go back up and see our Follett Tower cam. Steve Kirsch has been kind of panning around the approach of this storm. He hasn't seen a tornado yet, but we did have one fairly wide lowering right on the leading edge of this that suggested maybe a tornado. But that, again, is the one right on the Texas-Oklahoma border that is to the northwest of Shattuck and continuing to move on to the south. So that is Follett. I'm going to come back after I check with our friends at the Weather Service, getting updates from them, talking about the flooding potential, rainfall rates, potential of 2 to 6 inches per hour, or maybe 2 inches in a fairly short period of time along the highway in between Perryton and Canadian, since that is, as they say, under the direct core of the storm. So let's go back, and I will show you the severe thunderstorm watch area. All the counties in pink are north central, northeastern regions. The rest of the region, I don't expect any severe weather for you tonight. That said, a little bit further south, the row of counties not included in the watch, but Amarillo along Interstate 40 toward Shamrock may still have the potential for some severe weather, but that's going to be a couple of hours from now. So we'll drill down, take a look at our radar presentations once again. The tornado warned storm and the area of most concern is south of Perryton right now, and I'll draw in some locations for you. Right in here, let me pause this. Right in here is, oops, hang on. Computer will catch up to me one day. Let's try this one. Right in there. See the little notch pointing to right there? That's the most likely rotation area. Again, out in open country, it's right along and on the east side of the highway, within, a mile or two, 3 at the outside of the highway. But if I loop this again for you, you can kind of see the general motion is south-southeast. So that keeps it out in open country. And just Ochiltree County is the one included in the warning at the current time. The rest of it, though, is extremely heavy rain. And there was a report earlier, some 3-inch hail. We may even get close to that with a couple of hailstones. So clearly, in between Perryton and Canadian. Don't want you to travel on Highway 83. That would be a disaster at this point in time. What I'm going to do now is back out a little bit, check very quickly on our Follett storm. The Weather Service office in Norman has ended the tornado warning for Ellis County. It continues in Beaver County, but the rotation is now, and let me highlight this for you so you can see. The rotation signature is likely right in here. And this is the Texas-Oklahoma border. So, good news for Lipscomb County that the rotation is probably on the other side of the border. That's still into Ellis County, again, north of Shattuck and well northwest of Gage. And if I loop this for you, you can see the general motion is moving on to the southeast. Over Darrozette, we do have another strengthening thunderstorm cell. It's probably peaked, but in Darrozette, if you're getting some heavy rain and some hail right now, that should be over in the next 5 to 10 minutes. But then that one will move southward toward Lipscomb. And that's going to be along Highway 308. That one is probably not severe at this point, but some small pea-sized hail and the potential for some strengthening is absolutely there. Okay, let me check on our friends at the Weather Service, see what they're telling us. They're in communication with chasers and other folks. Nothing in the last couple of minutes. Flash flood warning is now in effect for parts of Hemphill, Roberts, Ochiltree, and Lipscomb County. So the runoff, as we discussed, is going to be pretty heavy there. And so that potential is absolutely there for some flooding problems. Again, that's mainly southeastern part of Ochiltree County, south of Perryton. Let me move this for you here. And I'll draw in just the location to give you a better idea. So we clearly don't want to travel south or southeast of Perryton or northwestward out of Canadian along Highway 83 or Highway 23 because that runoff problem is going to continue to be pretty big. Let's do a little checking on the rest of the region. The primary threat is going to be in our eastern counties for the rest of the evening, the next couple of hours. You can see on the broad view, the rest of the area is pretty quiet, and we don't see any new developments. So the primary threat, in fact, I'll just go back to our outlook from the Storm Prediction Center here, is the northeastern portion of the region. So from Borger eastward, Spearman eastward, Panhandle eastward, Clarendon eastward, and northward, all the yellow areas, that's a slight risk area for some severe weather. So that's going to be the principal threat. The darker green areas, rain chance not zero, but it's actually pretty small. If something could develop, there could be some brief gusty winds and a little bit of hail in a couple of spots. And pardon me while I mute my microphone so I can cough. Oh yeah, okay. All right. Okay. All right, this is the model run. You can see where the heavy rain is now. And so as we go on through time, let me take this in advance here. This model strengthens this heavy rain potential south of Canadian all the way to the I-40 corridor through Shamrock. And that goes until about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. And then we start to see some signals by 10 of some weakening as it moves through the southeastern portion of the region. So with the tornado warnings still in effect, I'll go back and check our Ochiltree County, and I'm going to check on the Weather Service as well. But that's our main storm of concern. And it looks like the rotation notch now, let me bring this down just a little bit. That rotational signature's probably moved out of the warning area. Well, now there's two of them. There's that one right in the center of your screen. So that inflow notch could be, in fact, let me check a couple of other sources here and see. Yeah, it's a broad rotation there. It's not real tight, but the look of that on radar does suggest that it very easily could tighten up. So I think our friends at the Weather Service will probably continue that warning, tornado warning, for at least another 20 minutes or so till the bottom of the hour. And I apologize for the coding error. We've seen this a couple times on the computer where it's plots mountain time for some unknown reason, but that's going to be Monday until 8:30 is when that warning is currently in effect. Check with our friends at the Weather Service. Flash flood warning, as I mentioned. Severe thunderstorm warning continue. Potential for 2-inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts with some of these storms. So that's our main notch right there. Another potential notch, inflow notch, is right here. And that's well west of Canadian. Again, thankfully, most of this has been out in open country, but let me loop that a couple times for you. We'll keep an eye, obviously, on that and see if that would potentially trigger some sort of a warning for Roberts County. Not a tornado warning at this point in time. Checking on our other storm. The rotation in that other storm has really moved over the Texas-Oklahoma border, so that's going to include Ellis County. But that warning continues until 8:30 as well. I'm going to check with the Weather Service on that one. Well, since we got the stream going and a tower in Follett, thanks to our friends at Pantex, thought I'd give you a shot of that. That is looking eastward toward the storm. Follett, you are not included in a tornado warning. That's over the border for the most part now. That said, there is a new thunderstorm. Yeah, he may actually be looking to the northeast now. There is a new thunderstorm strengthening south of Slapout in Beaver County, and that's going to be moving southward toward Follett. And that one has a better chance at this moment of getting into and toward Follett with at least some hail, given the current radar. And I'll take you there in just a second. But in Follett, we are under a tornado warning. You're not immediately threatened, but within the next 5 to 10 minutes, that storm that you're seeing there on the tower cam is going to approach. And tornado or not, it will pack a pretty strong punch, again, with the potential of some, I'd say at this point, some 2-inch hail, if not a little bit larger. The bulk of that is in extreme southeastern Beaver County. I want to stick with the pictures for a minute, and then I'll show you the radar. I'm just kind of doing the analysis on the fly. But if you know anybody in Follett who might not be watching or watching the stream, I'm going to keep you posted there. You may want to give them a phone call and say, hey, something pretty heavy is heading your way, so that they might want to go ahead and prepare, especially that hail potential. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to keep on talking here. If you hear something in the background, our friends at Telemundo are going to start recording their evening newscasts. So I'll continue to keep you updated on the stream, but that's what you may or may not hear in the background.
Náguera fue acusado de reingreso ilegal en los Estados Unidos y será deportado. Actualmente se encuentra bajo custodia federal en la cárcel del condado Randolph. Y en las noticias, el cargo por homicidio contra un hombre del condado Boulder se ha elevado a
Am I not going to see it here? We need to break on this. Yeah, thanks.
de 2022 por disparar contra 3 personas al noroeste de la calle 18 y la calle Bonham. Una de las 3 víctimas, Lawrence Park, de 19 años, falleció. Ken fue acusado de 2 delitos de agresión agravada con un arma mortal y un delito de asesinato. Ahora, 3 años después, la Fiscalía del Condado Potter ha elevado su cargo de asesinato a asesinato capital. Si es declarado culpable, Dane pasará el resto de su vida en prisión sin posibilidad de libertad condicional. Y en otra historia, un hombre de Clovis pasará 33 años.
Switch the prompter, please.
Can I get the prompter switch, please? Can you hear me, Drew?
Can we put the TV station in that monitor, please?
Okay. Would you,
TV station in that monitor, please.
can I get KFDA on my monitor? Where we usually do monitor shots? Say that one more time for me, Drew. You want the SkyTrack? Background or SkyTrack?
I don't understand the question.
You want the weather wall or the SkyTrack?
I want what's right there now.
What's in there right now? 5, 4, 3.
Well, good evening once again. I want to get you an update on the tornado warning situation in Lipscomb County near Follett. This is the Pantex tower cam that is looking at the approaching storm. It's coming largely from the north, and it's within 5 miles of getting into town right now. So I wanted to go ahead and get you an update on this storm. We don't have a confirmed tornado, but you can see obviously on the tower cam that we've got some pretty dark and scary looking clouds and some lowerings, which are all the signs that we look for during a tornado situation. I'm going to step out and give you a minute or two to watch the radar. Right in the center of your screen is what we're talking about, almost where that arrow ends right there. That little inflow notch is a potential tornadic rotation that is, again, within 5 miles of Follett. It looks like the bulk of that rotation, or the center of that, will probably cross between, I would say, 2 and 3 miles of the east side of town. So once again, tornado warning currently in effect, and we'll stay with this for a couple of minutes as we watch a storm approach Follett from the north. Not a confirmed tornado at this point, and I'll check with our friends at the Weather Service in just a second, but the rotation signature there is just a couple miles north of Highway 15. So traveling east out of Follett is obviously not a good idea, but in Follett, if you haven't gone to your safe place, I would go ahead and be prepared to do that. Listen in your area. If you feel threatened, don't wait for us to tell you to go ahead and go to that safe place. Go ahead and go. And for the moment, we'll go ahead and reinforce and try and remember our tornado safety rules. What you want is to be on a lowest floor, on the first floor of the house or building that you are in, on an inside room, a small room toward the center of the house, like a bathroom or a hallway or a closet. The idea is to put as many walls between you and the outside as you can. That way you will hopefully slow down any flying debris coming through the outside walls first, and then a smaller room toward the center of the house has more structural integrity. So that will likely stand up to the winds better. So small room, center of the house, bathroom, hallway, closet. That obviously has no windows in it. And then let's go ahead and bring something along to cover up your head. Helmets are great. Bicycle helmet, football helmet, baseball helmet. Lacking those, you can have the cushions off the sofa or the bed, something like that, just to cover up your head. A lot of severe weather damage and injury is caused by flying debris, and so you want to have that something to cover up your head to avoid head injuries. If you're somebody who has some medications that you like to keep with you, I'd go ahead and grab those as well and keep those with you. Also, think about something like your glasses and maybe even a jacket. Once the storm pulls on by, it's going to get a little cooler with the rain cooled air. And then the last thing as far as prep, and then we'll do a little analysis as we go, is put on some sturdy shoes. It's night, you've kicked off your shoes, you're in your bare feet or in your flip-flops or something like that. If there's going to be any damage in the house or around the house, you obviously don't want to be forced to walk on nails, broken glass, splintered wood, things like that. So once again, that tornado warning for Follett is in effect. It remains in effect at least until 8:30 at this point, and we're continuing to watch and check in with the Weather Service, and what I'm going to do now is actually do that. And so there'll be a pause here and there while I kind of do some analysis, but I'll try and keep you posted as well. Radar indicated from the Weather Service, so not on the ground right now. Well, I'm sorry, that's the Ochiltree one, so we need to go over to Ochiltree in just a second. It's south of Lipscomb. But once again in Follett, if you have not gone to your safe place, you might go ahead and do that, or be ready to go very, very quickly toward the center of the house, small room, bathroom, hallway, or closet. You are under, especially from downtown to the east, under a current tornado warning. Now, as far as other activity, this cell near Darrozette and east of Booker, that one is strengthening in intensity. We have the potential for 2 to 3 inch size hailstones with that storm, just on the west and northwest side of town. That will continue to develop to the south and southeast. So Darrozette, you're getting some heavy rain right now, but the potential for large hail is going to increase within the next 5 minutes or so. We also have a tornado warning in the southern portion of Ochiltree County, and that banner where it says tornado warning, take that with a grain of salt. There's another 10 minutes left on that. We've had a little bit of a coding error. That's why it says Mountain Standard Time, but it's actually Monday until 8:30 for Ochiltree County with that storm cell that is moving southeastward. The rotation signature looks to be right there, and let me pause it. It's just to, I'd say, a mile or 2, 3 at the outside to the east of Highway 70, and it is continuing to move in a southerly direction. So the next spot on the map that would be due for that, and it's still a ways away, the Canadian River Valley is right, stick with me, computer will catch up. Canadian River Valley is the darker area right there. So it's still north of the Canadian River and moving southward. And so Roberts County, you're going to be under the gun next for that storm. The tornado warning is not included for you at this moment in time, but it's not out of the question with the south, almost due south movement of that storm. Let me run this in loop for you again. You can kind of get a general idea where that is going. Perryton, you're not included in this. So again, the southern portion of Ochiltree County along and east of Highway 70. That's another tornado warning. Oh, and here's a new one. This is the Darrozette storm that we were just talking about. Okay, our friends at the Weather Service now putting a new tornado warning for Lipscomb County. That's going to go until 9 o'clock tonight. That is south of Darrozette and south of Booker for a storm that is moving through the northwestern, west central portion of the county. Let me go ahead, since they've issued that warning now. It's radar indicated, and we're just going to kind of do this on the fly and stick with you here. So it's a tornado warning, northern Lipscomb County. I'm just reading the text of the warning till 9 o'clock. It was 5 miles east of Booker, 17 miles southwest of Lipscomb, moving southeast at about 20 miles per hour, if that fast. Well, no, that one looks like it's sped up a little bit. So the primary threat is obviously tornadoes. Some debris is possible with that one as well. So anywhere south of Darrozette, you're going to be with the potential to be affected by this particular storm. So that again is a new tornado warning, and that's going to go until 9 o'clock tonight. So we're going to stick with this here since we have these active warnings that are thankfully mostly in open country, but not completely. So as I look at the radar signature, yeah, it looks like we're trying to tighten. Yeah, we're trying to tighten the rotation on the Follett storm right now. So that one looks to be the one principal threat. So if you're just joining us, or if you know somebody in Follett, let them know this tornado, potential tornado, is right on your doorstep. So if you've been listening and waiting to go to your safe place, I think I might go ahead and do that right now. We'll give you an all clear when it moves on by. But that potential rotation right over Follett right now, there's a new radar image coming in, and that looks better with regard to the lesser threat of the tornado. But let me go back up. We've got a camera in Follett, and we'll sit and watch that for a minute. Thanks to our friends at Pantex. We may, Steve Kirsch has been kind of panning around this line as it approaches, and now it's going to get on top of town right there. You can kind of see it shaking a little bit too. It's probably getting a little bit of the gust front. So even outside of a tornadic rotation, the potential for some straight line winds to 40, 50, or even 60 miles per hour is definitely going to be there. So in and around Follett, I'd love for you to go ahead and be in your safe place right now. Anybody who's just joining, we'll review that again. That's small room on the first floor of the building that you're in. Bathroom, hallway, closet toward the center of the building. Bring something along to cover up your head. Helmets are great, couch cushions are great, pillows are great. Don't waste any time bringing anything bigger along into the bathroom. I'd rather you just be in that spot, because that smaller room toward the center of the house provides a lot more structural integrity and keeps you protected from flying debris on the outside. Continuing to watch our friends in the chat with the National Weather Service. We did apparently, and let me make sure this is the right one, video of tornado was sent, and this is the Ockle tree storm, so that's the other one. I'll go back there in the minute. There is video of a tornado in Ockle County. That is, again, outside of populated areas, but the southern portion of the region. So that is some, at least, video confirmation on social media of a tornado that probably happened just a few minutes ago. Steve Kirsch reporting winds gusting to 45 miles per hour at their station in Follett. A gust to 45 and sustained wind of 35 miles per hour out of the east-northeast. So you're getting some outflow from that storm. And that's the picture that you're currently looking at. He is rotating around. You can see the sheets of rain right now and the trees in that wind-swept picture from Follett. So even straight-line winds obviously can do some damage. I'll go back to the Ockle tree storm in just a second. Let me get you... pardon me, let me get you a look at our warnings, our watches currently, and the warnings. All the counties in pink, severe thunderstorm watch, and that goes until midnight tonight. I'm going to go and drill down a little closer. These, again, pink is the watch, and then the warning areas are all of these. We've got 3 active tornado warnings, a number of severe thunderstorm warnings, and the green boxes are flood advisories, because these have been moving fairly slowly and putting down some copious amounts of rainfall. So let's go over to our Ockle County storm right now, since we spent some time with the Follett storm. Okay, the rotation signature there, and again, we had some video of that. It's just a mile or two off the highway. It's just on the east side of the highway. So it looks like now the rotation signature is poised to move across the county. So our friends at the Weather Service, pause this, right here, and that's the county border and the end of the warning area. So our friends at the Weather Service will decide in moments here whether or not they want to extend this tornado warning further south into Roberts County. My gut in this moment is that they probably will, but we're monitoring the chat, and we'll give you an idea of what happens there in just a minute. We may see a new red box pop on there any second. So again, here is the loop along and east of Highway 70. We have a tornado warning, had some video of a tornado, and so that is moving southeast just a couple miles east of Highway 70. In Roberts County, that will go largely out into open country. Eventually, the next thing would be Miami, potentially, eventually Pampa. Certainly not under threat right now, but the computer models do want to keep this complex going for a couple of more hours. So Miami, Pampa, want to let you know that that storm is still a ways off, at least an hour. But this is the time where you can start thinking, okay, where am I going to go in the building that I'm in? Gather your things up together. If you have any medications, eyeglasses, things like that. Put on a good sturdy pair of shoes, or at least have them ready, because if that storm cluster approaches your area, you want to just be able to react and not necessarily think about what you're going to do. For Canadian, if you're getting some rain now, it may pick up in intensity a little bit. A couple of small to even medium-sized hailstones may pop out of this, but you are largely east of Glazer as well, east of the most threatening part of that storm. All right, as you watch that loop, we'll go back to Follett in just a minute. I want to see if our friends at the Weather Service have decided on Roberts County yet. They have not. So, southern portion of Ochiltree County until 8:30. I know the banner says 6:30, but until 8:30, we have, for a couple more minutes, a tornado warning. They'll decide here in the next minute or two what they're going to do with that one. A couple of other strong storms and tornado warned storms. These are in Lipscomb County. So now around Follett and let's say south or southwest of Darrozette and south of Booker, some potential rotation there. No confirmation of those at this minute. The good news, I think, is, and this is what the models are saying, within the next 30 to 45 minutes, I think what we're going to see is these three cells sort of merge together, which provides some good things and also some bad things. The good news is the tornado threat, if we get a big, long line of connected thunderstorms, diminishes a good bit. Doesn't go to zero, but diminishes a good bit. The downside is then that will produce some very, very heavy rain and some strong, gusty, severe winds as the storm approaches. So in Lipscomb, you're next. We haven't mentioned you too much. I'm going to drill down there in just a second while checking with our friends at the Weather Service. Follett just had a wind gust to 55 miles per hour, so that sort of verifies what we were talking about there. I'm going to go to Lipscomb in just a second, but I'll get you that Follett tower cam again. And you can kind of see the wind-swept rain, probably some connectivity issues there. Obviously a good bit of lightning, and you can see those trees blowing around as well. So straight line winds gusting now toward 55 miles per hour, likely a little bit higher in Follett. So let's go back to the radar. We'll check on our storms here. Lipscomb, you're going to be next. Heavy rain is still, let's say, the extremely heavy rain, we'll do a little measurement here, is still, let's say, just about or just inside of 10 miles from you. The core that we're looking at for the hail potential is on the west side of Darrozette there. That, again, the potential for 2 to even 3-inch hailstones is not out of the question as that storm moves on. So in Lipscomb, let your neighbors know. If you don't live in Lipscomb and you know somebody who does, let them know that some very heavy, potentially flooding rains, strong gusty winds, and some hail is heading in your direction. Lipscomb not officially included in the tornado warning right now, so that's good news there. Okay, Follett, it looks like they have let the tornado warning expire. Let me get you back here. That's good news. Remember, we had the red box that at one point extended over into Oklahoma, but the Weather Service has allowed that to expire. And I think what I was mentioning a couple minutes ago is probably happening here. Let me draw a little line for you. We can talk about this. Right now, what I think we're going to see, and that we are seeing, is this turning from individual cells to a line. See how the yellow and the orange colors are sort of coalescing together? And that's going to create this line of thunderstorms, which will provide 50, 60 mile an hour wind gust as it approaches, especially Lipscomb. But the tornado threat, that kind of a line decreases the tornado threat, which is good news. You can still get some little spin-ups on the leading edge of this and on the gust front. Those are often called gustnados. They tend not to last very long, and they also tend, oh, now here's a new warning. Okay, so they're going to continue the warning, probably for a reason that I will explain here in just a second. But let me pause this. We'll get you the text of the new warning. That's going to go until 9:15. So tornado warning till 9:15 for Lipscomb County. We continue the severe thunderstorm warning as well. So the reasoning there, let me do a little analysis on the fly and also check with the Weather Service, but a new tornado warning, and that's going to be for, that's the one that's highlighted there, for Lipscomb County until 9:15. Nothing in the chat on that one yet, but as soon as that comes out, I will get it for you. So obviously we've turned into an extremely active night across the northeastern portions of the area. All right, we'll go back to Ochiltree County. Good news there, that storm is still a monster, but they have allowed the tornado warning to expire on that one. So that's a bit of good news there. Let me get you an animation. It's coming across the county border right now. So in Roberts County, just north side of the Canadian River Valley, that hail core and that extremely heavy rain core is going to be continuing to move in and move southward. Where will it go? Well, probably next in line would be Miami, as we mentioned a few minutes ago. Canadian, I still don't see anything particularly heavy for you. That said, the orientation of the storm to your west could easily throw some larger hailstones out the side of it or the top of it. So even though the rain may not even seem that heavy or it might seem moderate, I would please stay inside, not be out looking around, because a couple of random hailstones may be coming out of that storm, which in some ways is probably even a little bit more dangerous or threatening in that you're not expecting it. You're not in a big hail core right now, but a couple of strong or large hailstones could come out of that one. So if I pause it, we'll do a little analysis here from Miami northward. We're about 15 miles, 16 miles from the leading edge of this storm. So that gives you plenty of time in Miami to go ahead and prepare. I want to put the car in the garage, go do that, bring the garbage cans in, go and do that, because you're still at least, I would say, close to 30 minutes away from experiencing that thunderstorm. But it does look like it's going to hold together and continue to move on to the south. We talked about Canadian a moment or two ago, so let's go back up to our other storms that have tornado warnings on them, and that's going to be in Lipscomb County. So Lipscomb proper, rain's going to pick up in your area here in the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes, and it will be, well, not briefly, but significantly heavy. Some large hailstones are certainly possible. The largest hail core right now is moving south of Follett, but the heavy rain is really continuing. In fact, let me go to that camera. Right there it catches it. That's a truck moving through, but look at the sheets of rain that are just continuing to blow, and you can kind of see, even though the signal's a little bit choppy, the trees are really getting it there as well. So that rain and that heavy strong wind is going to persist in Follett for probably at least another 5 to 10 minutes. So if you're in your safe place, please go ahead and stay there. Once this core clears Follett, I'll let you know and give you the all clear, but I would love for you to stay in your safe place right now. And obviously, if you feel threatened, you don't need to listen to me. Go to that safe place and stay there. But we'll get you an update here on the radar in just a second and let you know where that particular cell is going. Quick update for the rest of the region. This is our area of severe thunderstorm watch. That's in effect until midnight tonight. We've obviously got a bunch of warnings currently in effect as well. Just 2 left now, actually, 2 for Lipscomb County. Most of the county covered by 2 different tornado warnings. In fact, let me try and do it this way and get you the text of these warnings, since we've had a little bit of a problem with the coding and that Mountain Standard Time. So here's a good update. Tornado warning, that one that I clicked, is Lipscomb County until 9 o'clock. Severe thunderstorm warning, also Lipscomb County, parts of Beaver County as well, although that storm's clear. So let's just say Lipscomb County, that'll go until 9:30, and then obviously the severe thunderstorm watch. Now the other one is also in Lipscomb County. That one's in effect until 9:15, concurrent with a severe thunderstorm warning and the severe thunderstorm watch as well. So that gets an update on our warnings. So we'll continue continuous coverage here at News Channel 10. The rest of the region is pretty quiet. This really looks like an Eastern County event for the next several hours, as all of these storms will continue to move to the south and southeast and develop eventually toward the I-40 corridor a little later on tonight. So let's just walk along the leading edge of these. This is our once tornado warned storm. Okay, now in the last image, see, this is over Roberts County, and we kind of do the analysis on the fly here, but what I'm looking at now is what we call a new pendant and a new inflow notch on that storm. So that one may be trying to wind up again, pardon me, and produce another tornado. No tornado warning for Roberts County at this moment, but that potential, I think, may be increased. For Hemphill County, rain's going to definitely pick up. Canadian, you're probably getting some light rain now. That will start to increase in intensity. And we talked a few minutes ago about the potential for some larger hailstones to pop out of the side of that thunderstorm. So back to our tornado warn storm. Okay, we've got now just one warning. So this is a very dynamic situation. The western half of Lipscomb County has now been cleared from the tornado warning. So good news there. I think this is part of the effect of what I said is this is turning from individual cells to a kind of a straight line wind, long line or squall line type of situation. So that's good news in that the tornado warning was canceled for the western half of the county. The tornado warning continues for the eastern half of the county. In Follett, I'm looking at the tower cam. I won't show it to you here just a second, but the rain has picked up. I mean, has weakened a little bit. It's still coming down pretty good. But in Follett, please go ahead and stay in your safe place for just a couple of minutes longer. There's still the potential for some hail, but I think the tornadic signature has moved south of town. Looking on Doppler radar, yeah, let's give it at least 5 more minutes in Follett to stay in your safe place or be ready to go there very, very quickly until the rotation signature moves south of town. Once it does, it's going to be out in open country. So south of Follett, west of the Texas-Oklahoma border. Lipscomb, you are not included in the tornado warning polygon. We'll watch that, of course, but you're not included right now. But you do want to be prepared for some heavy rain and some hail to move in. And as I loop this again, you can see that the storm cell has moved away. The most dangerous part has moved away from Follett. So some good news there. I can see on the tower cam still windy. If you're in Follett, you obviously know that. But the hail potential now is going to be east and southeast of town where you see the darker red and the purple color. And it almost looks like it wants to develop closer to the Texas-New Mexico border, which is good news there for Lipscomb County. So that tornado warning is the only one left. It goes until 9:15. I can't imagine going quite that long, but we'll stick with it unless I'm sure that the rotation is out of any populated areas and not going to affect Lipscomb. As I expand the view here, you can see the next town beyond Lipscomb would be Higgins. And that's still, let's do a little measurement here. That is still, we're inside of 15 miles, we're about 12, 13 miles from the very, very heavy rain and the gust front. So in Higgins, what we want to prepare for next is less, I think, for tornado activity, even though you're included in the warning currently, but for straight line wind activity, potential flooding rains, and some hailstones that could be 2 inches or better, maybe some quarter or even golf ball size hail. I see a new cell, if you'll bear with me there, popping up north of Lipscomb. Let's go check that one out. That's the one that's come through Darrozette. So good news for Darrozette. The rain has now, if you don't know already, has moved out of your area. You are not under a tornado warning, but the hail threat has diminished. In fact, if you were in your safe spot in Darrozette, I think you can go ahead and come out. Booker under no threat right now. Logan under no threat right now. Follett, there's still going to be a brief period of moderate rain and some small hailstones, but the tornadic signature has moved south of town. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, please just give me another 5 minutes or so. It's currently 8:41. So let's go until at least 8:45 in Follett, and you can come out of your safe place. If you're anywhere south of town, let's give it closer to 10 minutes there. And we'll see if they expire that warning any sooner based upon this kind of cell merger that we've been talking about. So let me expand the view, give you an idea of what we're looking at here. 2 main cells moving to the south-southeast. Next on the map for that westernmost one would be Miami. That's still going to be 30 minutes away for any heavy rain. Light rain may start a little earlier. As you look at this, I'm going to check on our friends at the Weather Service. Let's see what they have to say. Oh, okay, they're extending the severe thunderstorm watch, and I'll go to that in a moment, but Gray and Wheeler counties are going to be added to the severe thunderstorm watch. I'll see if that is plotted on the map in just a second. But just to know, as we kind of thought, the severe weather threat will now extend southward toward the I-40 corridor. Checking on Follett and looking at the tower cam. Things are quieting down very quickly. If you are obviously in Follett, you know that. Okay. One of the warnings, wait a minute. The tornado warning for the western part of Lipscomb County was canceled. We knew that. I'm just trying to catch up here. New report coming in from the chat south of Perryton. Let me go there in a minute. Chasers are reporting that they may have a lowering there. So on radar, let's go back up to Perryton. Okay, Perryton, that's no threat to you right now. They're well south of town. I see a couple of little new cells trying to develop. I can't imagine those would be tornadic just yet, but chasers are sending in some pictures. So we're going to watch that one. Again, for Perryton, it's been all around you, but the good news is even if those are new cells developing, they will not affect town because they'll move in a south-southeasterly direction. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. All right, let's go check on the new watch. Some counties have been added, and we'll go zoom in on that. So some good news there. Stratford, Dumas, you've been eliminated or cleared from the watch, but Spearman, Booker, Pampa, now Allen Reed, all the way south to the I-40 corridor are all included in the severe thunderstorm watch until midnight. So you can see the new cities popping up there. That's going to be LaForce, McLean, and Mobeetie, Briscoe, Wheeler, Twitty, Shamrock, Kelton, Allison. All of you are included now in a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until midnight tonight. I think the storms to your north would be through there before then, but that is the current time on the watch. All right, back to radar, checking on our Lipscomb County, and we're going to talk to Follett here. Let me go to our radar. I think in Follett, you still got some heavy rain, some gusty winds, but the tornadic signature has moved southeast of town. So I'm going to go and say not all clear in Follett. There's still some heavy rain and a little bit small hail coming, but the tornadic rotation, the tornadic signature has moved southeast of town. So I think if you feel comfortable, it's okay in Follett to go ahead and come out of your safe spot. Be ready to go back, clearly, but I think the situation you will find in the next 5 to 10 minutes will improve dramatically, and the rain will let up, and the wind has been letting up as well. In Lipscomb, your rain is now picking up, or should be, and it will continue to do so. That storm doesn't look particularly strong at this point. You see there a darker red just to the north of town. There's probably some hail in there, maybe some dime, even a couple of nickel-sized hailstones. I think the potential for that one to produce large hail, 2 or 3 inch hail, is pretty limited at this point. But it is going to come through Lipscomb and pick up the rain intensity in the next few minutes. And then in Higgins, as I mentioned, you're probably 10 to 15 minutes away from the rain picking up in your area. I see a little new development there, right north of the mile marker sign. That's Highway 213 in between or south of Lipscomb toward Higgins. So rain is going to obviously pick up in intensity, and maybe in Higgins, maybe in the next 5 to 10 minutes as opposed to 10 to 15. So that's the remaining tornado warning. Nope, check that. There's another one, tornado warning for Roberts County. Okay, we're going to continue now until 9:30. That's 45 minutes from now. Roberts County is under a tornado warning. That cell is going to continue to move southward. The rotation part is right over the Canadian River right now. In fact, I might try and get our Lake Meredith Tower Cam on there, but this is again a new tornado warning. Let's go ahead and get some more information on that for Roberts County until 9:30. Severe thunderstorm warning included as well. But the new tornado warning is now for Roberts County until 9:30. And it is, again, thankfully, out in largely open country over the Canadian River, just on the east side of Highway 70. In fact, it's moving across the Canadian River right now. As you watch that loop, I'm going to check on the Weather Service and see that new warning there. It is radar indicated. Roberts County until 9:30. Located at the time of the issuance, 18 miles southwest of Wolf Creek Park, or 20 miles north of Miami. We've mentioned Miami a couple of times. You are not, hang on. You are not included in this warning in Miami yet, but now obviously the storm is getting closer to you. Pardon me. Out in largely open country. Another note from the Weather Service right there. And so I'm going to back up and check on Perryton. They were mentioning something there. Okay, so that's the new warning. It's well south of Perryton now. So in Perryton, there was that moment where we said, okay, with something new developing, no threat to you in Perryton. The severe weather threat has moved to the south of town. So this new warning, based on rotation and some earlier reports from our friends at the Weather Service, is for that particular storm that is now over the northern portion of Roberts County. I'm going to mute my microphone for just a second. Okay, I apologize. I've been fighting off the remnants of a cold here for about 2 weeks, and so I didn't want to cough in your ear. But we're looking now at our Roberts County storm. There's a pretty good rotation signature on that storm. Again, it is out in open country, but Miami, now is the time, not under a warning yet, but we're going to ask you to start paying attention. If you know somebody who may not be watching, thank you, sir, who may be watching, not watching TV in Miami, or on the stream, we're now at the point where we want to start paying attention and preparing what we're going to do. So it's been a moment or two since I reviewed our tornado safety guidance. You want to be on the first floor, obviously storm shelter if you have one, or basement, but on the first floor, the lowest floor of the building that you're in. And if you're in Miami, let's go ahead and start paying attention and thinking ahead so you don't have to make a snap decision at the last minute. First floor, lowest floor, toward the center of the house, bathroom, hallway, closet, anything like that that has no windows in it, and a smaller room will provide some more structural integrity. And then the idea of toward the center of the house puts as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So that's what we're looking at as far as tornado safety plan. And again, we're talking at this moment to Miami, which is not under immediate threat, but I think, and based on the computer models, that storm has every reason to want to hold together. Will it be tornadic when it gets there? It's a little too early to say, but we're inside of 20 miles away. And so in Miami, once we get inside of 10 miles away, then we're talking about an arrival time of 10 to 15 minutes, and we're going to continue to stay on our streams and on TV since we've got active tornado warnings, and we thank you for staying with us here at News Channel 10. But that little notch right in the center of your screen, that's the potential inflow notch and the potential rotation on that particular storm right now. So that's all of Roberts County. In Ochiltree County, you're done. More stable air should be moving in, and the storms have moved to the south of you. Let's go back now to our other storm cell. As I mentioned in Follett, if somebody moved away, or Darrozette, you're done. Follett, you're going to be done here in a couple of minutes. I've been watching with great interest our tower cam there. That's from our friends at Pantex and Steve Kirsch. He's been giving us some great shots from Follett. Still some rain, some heavy rain continuing, but it is starting, at least with regard to the wind speed, is starting to loosen up a little bit. So I think the rain's probably going to end here, I would say, in less than 10 minutes in Follett. Southeast of town going to continue a little bit longer, but I think the main severe weather threat in Follett is done. And so if you've been hiding or sheltering in your safe place, I do think it's okay to come out right now. Be prepared if you hear something that spooks you to obviously go back, but the tornadic threat has really diminished for Follett. And you saw the box disappear there. So it's 8:51. Our friends at the Weather Service have canceled the tornado warning for Lipscomb County. Severe thunderstorm warning remains, but the good news is that tornado warning for Lipscomb County has been canceled. So good news there in Follett. Again, you can come out, just know some brief gusty winds. The rain will start to loosen up in intensity, even though it's coming down. There's been very heavy rain, so let's please not go out and drive around Follett. I mean, you can go outside and look around your house if the winds got strong for any damage. Certainly watch out for down power lines and things like that. I've not seen any power interruptions on our camera, but please be aware that power lines can come down, and with the heavy rain, there's going to be some puddles, and power lines can obviously charge those things. Some branches are down. It's obviously dark. So if you don't have to go out, please don't. But I think it is safer to do so now in Follett, and certainly will be in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll go back to our one tornado-warned storm right now. Oh, and the rotation signature is increasing very dramatically on this storm. What I'm going to do is add another product. I'm going to add the velocity product, and we made some changes to the computer here. recently. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to change to the velocity product, and this is going to be fairly useful here as we go on through the next 20 to 30 minutes with this storm. I'm going to let this animate, and you can see, let me slow it down for you. Hang on just a second. New settings on the computer. We'll go to slow so that that doesn't give us too much trouble. Okay, so this is 30 minutes of radar, and so what we're looking at on the velocity product is, this is Doppler radar. We're looking for green areas, bright green next to bright red, and that's obviously what's showing right here. What we want them is to be right next to each other. We don't want them, but that's the signature that we got some pretty strong rotation there. So let me drill down on that and see if I can slow it down just a little bit more. I'm gonna drill down. So this rotation signature is right on or a mile or two east of Highway 70. So the rotation signature has now moved south of the Canadian River and is continuing to strengthen. It is continuing to show a greater likelihood of a tornado in that area that is along and east of 70, south of the Canadian River, in the central or north central portion of Roberts County. So let me go back out a little bit, and you can see Miami there, and we'll get you the animation again. That storm cell on its current track would likely continue to develop almost due south. So that's good news in Miami. As it continues to move in that direction, I think it is less likely to move in a little more of a southeasterly direction. But let's do a little measuring here. We're about 15, 16, 17 miles northwest of Miami and moving almost due south. So again, out in open country, just south of the Canadian River. Tornado warning continues for Roberts County. And I apologize. As I mentioned, I got a cold, and somebody brought me a bottle of water. So I'm going to take a break every now and then, or just a moment, to kind of grease up my throat here. So let's go back to radar. And we're going to kind of watch this thing come southward right there. And because it's an active tornado warning, and because we're getting a little closer to Miami, we'll go ahead and stick with this. That new tornado warning is until 9:30. It's currently 8:55 here at NewsChannel 10 and on TV, and also our streaming platforms. If you want to get your phone out or anything like that, we've got our newschannel10.com, we've got Facebook, we've also got YouTube, and we're streaming on all of those platforms, especially if you get to a point where you can't watch the TV. And again, we're kind of starting to talk to Miami a little bit more now. Grab your phone with you. We got the app as well. You can keep up to date on radar there. But any of those platforms would be good if you can't stay near your TV. One comment I'll sometimes make is, please don't have the TV up too loud that you can't hear the approaching weather from the outside, but loud enough that you can continue to hear us, obviously. But you want to take your own precautions if you feel threatened. Don't wait for me to tell you. Go ahead and go to a safe place. So the main storm cell, the main portion of interest, is now north central Roberts County, and that is a tornado warned storm. It is along Highway 70, rotation just to the east of town by a mile or two. I'm sure there's a number of chasers watching that and looking for the lightning flashes to light up the wall cloud, the funnel cloud, the potential tornado, if in fact there is one, and they are trying to communicate with the Weather Service as well. So that's our current situation. Heavy rain is possible. Obviously, with some of these storms, I'm just kind of looking through our Weather Service chat at this moment. Rainfall rates being reported by Pantex, a couple of inches per hour, and I believe that certainly. And of course, we know what happens, especially in the Canadian River Valley, or even on the flat farmlands or fields. That kind of heavy rain just runs off extremely quickly and will very easily overtake the roadways, and very easily overtake the roadways with mud. And so clearly we ask not to travel in those areas right now, because you just don't know what happens, as we often say, on a flooded roadway. It may not look that strong, may not look that deep, but in many cases you don't know what's happened to the road underneath that water. So in Miami, let's check in here. Rain is starting to pick up, or will rather, in the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes at the outside. We may get a little blast of wind, a gust to 35, maybe 40 miles per hour as the gust front approaches, and then the rain will really, really pick up. Checking on the rotation signature on Doppler radar, this potential rotation, or this actual rotation, is now probably looking more what we call rain-wrapped. It's embedded in the heavy rain and potential hail, which does a couple of things. It may or may not try and strengthen there, but it becomes much more difficult to see. So the chasers that are out on this are going to have an extremely difficult time, if not impossible time, waiting for lightning. And then with that heavy rain, with it being surrounded by the tornado or the tornadic rotation, that'll be very, very difficult for them to discern anything as far as actually getting a sighting on this. So I'm watching a couple of things. Let me come back here, get you a better idea of what we're talking about. I think there's some good news right here. And we're still north of Miami. But right here, I'm starting to see a little bit of what we call a bow echo, which is still strong winds, but it is good news in that it tends to decrease the tornado threat, or may kind of take over that rotation in the cell and disrupt it enough that it would eliminate the tornado. Still some strong straight line winds, which can be very, very damaging, but if that straight line wind component continues and that bow echo continues, I think that'll be good news in that it'll transfer from a straight line wind situation, or from a tornadic situation, into a straight line wind situation. So that's just kind of what we're doing on the fly. But yeah, the new Doppler image, let me go ahead and go to that. The new Doppler image is sort of showing that as well. And I drill down real close. There's a couple of things to look at here as new images come in. We'll just narrate it for you, especially in Miami. And if you'll give me just a minute to take another drink of water. Okay, the bow that I'm talking about, straight line winds, is right about here. I'll loop it once or twice. Well, that's going to have to slow down. Sorry about that. Okay, loop it again and change the time frame a little bit to about 15 minutes. And come back. Sorry about the computer. We've changed some things on the computer just today, actually. And so some of the things are a little bit different. Now, let me try one more time. Okay, you kind of see that arc, that bowing, right? That's good news in that it is less likely to have a strong tornadic rotation. That said, right in this little spot right here, we may still have a possible tornado there. Bright green next to bright red. What do those colors mean? Well, Doppler radar is measuring the direction and speed of the raindrops. And so the green is, in this case, southward moving raindrops toward the radar site. And then red is, well, north, I say south or southeast, and then northwestward moving away. But the idea there is you can see, okay, toward the radar, away from the radar, and that's where you can interpret the rotation signature. So again, thankfully we're out in the open. It's actually moving away from Highway 70 right there. And so hopefully this bow echo will eventually take over and decrease the potential for that tornadic rotation. Still straight line winds, still approaching Miami. We are probably close to, I'll just do a measurement here, close to 10 miles away now, which is really the point at which you want to start paying attention. Okay, so we're inside of 10 miles for the heavy rain. The rotation probably just inside of 10 miles as well. So in Miami, let's go back and review. We'll start with storm shelter if you have one. Pardon me. Basement if you have one. Not going right now in Miami. You're not included in the warning, but we're just sort of getting ready. So first floor, lowest floor, center of the house, bathroom, hallway, closet, no windows in it, small room, has more structural integrity, center of the house, puts more walls between you and the outside, and definitely please bring along something to cover up your head. Baseball, football, bicycle helmets are all great. Head injuries are one of the most common severe weather injuries, and we obviously don't want that. So something to cover up your head. Even the couch cushions, pillows from the couch, pillows from the bed, all of that is better than nothing if you don't have a helmet. So from there, you want to go ahead and put on some sturdy shoes. Maybe get out of your PJs if you're in those early. If there's damage to the house, you don't want to be walking on broken glass, splintered wood, nails, things like that. So sturdy shoes is definitely a must. Prepare those in Miami. Don't have to put them on right now, but have them next to you and get prepared, because within the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to know if this thing's going to hold together and threaten Miami or not. And we'll hear from our friends at the Weather Service. Also on that storm, if you look north of Miami, the darker red and the purple is some hail. And the Weather Service is suggesting now hail size to baseballs is not out of the question. Not all baseballs, but there'll definitely be some dime nickel size hailstones. There'll be some quarter and golf ball size hailstones mixed in, and a couple of those could easily get to baseball size. That's still more than 10, close to 12, 15 miles away from Miami and the Highway 60 corridor. I want to say I'm sensing a little bit of a more eastward jog on that, which doesn't help Miami at this point, but if it continues to do that, maybe we'll keep the bulk of the storm just to the northeast or east of town. Let's see, checking with our friends at the Weather Service. We're going to ride this one all the way in, and the tornado warning again goes until 9:30, so we're going to ride this one into town. I think it would be in Miami before that time, as the forward motion has increased a little bit. But since it's still a few miles away from town, let's broaden the view and see what else we're looking at. No other tornado warnings. Perryton, I don't see anything new developing over you, but near you. So there's another storm cell there that probably has some small hail in it, but it's east and southeast of town, moving away from town. Follette, you're in the clear. I've been keeping an eye on the tower cam there from Steve Kirsch at Pantex. The rain, as we predicted, has largely stopped, so Follette, you're okay to go out and look around for a minute. Maybe take a flashlight with you, see if there's been any damage, but stay away from any puddles. Be aware of any potential downed lines, power lines, and if you don't need to go out tonight, boy, it'd be great if you could just stay in and check for damage in the morning. Same thing for Darrozette. In Lipscomb, if the rain hasn't ended in your area, it will in the next couple of minutes. Can't say that a new cell might not develop and come over you, but the severe potential is going to be significantly limited because of the storms that have come through already, and that's going to stabilize the atmosphere a little bit. Broad view, rest of the Panhandle, okay, not expecting severe weather tonight, just because we're here. This is interesting. All these little flares, those are bugs leaving the playa lakes as we've gotten into the evening hours. See how they fan out? They're like little targets for the radar. They are like raindrops, and so you can kind of see them increasing in area as they come out from the playa lakes and fan out. Obviously not dangerous, but sort of a moment of interest there. A couple of new cells developing in and around and just south and east of Pampa. These are not severe, but they will have the potential to strengthen. They're nowhere close right now, but in LaFours, there's a little cell to the west of you heading east, so that's going to come in. Mobeetie, you'll get a little brief moment of rain. I'm going to watch those obviously very carefully and see if they want to strengthen. So we'll go back to our tornado warned storm. It is now, forward motion is really moving, and that's kind of a product of that bow echo that I talked about. That's going to accelerate the forward motion of this. So it's getting closer to Miami, but more importantly, it's getting closer to the edge of the tornado warning, that red polygon. So I think it's going to be out of that polygon probably within the next 5 minutes, probably less than 10 minutes, which means our friends at the Weather Service are going to have to decide if they're going to extend that a little bit further. And as I look at radar, well, we'll go back there in just a second. Let me check with them. Getting some pictures of some wild-looking shelf clouds. They're continuing that tornado warning for Roberts County. Okay, so let's go to the Doppler radar, and we'll do a little analysis of this. This is kind of a fascinating one. Let me back out a little bit and let it rotate for you. You can kind of see the bow, right? Let me draw it in. We're still now getting close to inside of 10 miles from Miami. That's the bow, but then I also want you to be aware of that as the product disappeared. Maybe a new image coming in. Let me go ahead and rotate it and see if we can get it back. There we go. So the arced line is the bow. That's okay. The arced line was a bow. That's strong straight line winds. And I apologize. I don't know what's going on here with the picture disappearing. Let me rotate or animate it again and stay there. Okay, the new area of concern, and this would probably be a briefer tornado, but right in there. See how we're getting a little more bright red next to bright green. It's moving to the south-southeast, and that may be a sign that a new rotation center is increasing. If it's on the edge of the bow, which it is, those tend to not last very long, so that would be a little spin-up cell there. But that may prompt the Weather Service to extend the warning out a little bit further. All right, here it is. We'll do another measurement here at almost 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. Tornado warning in the central portion of Roberts County. Rest of the area, no tornado warnings, but severe weather across the northeastern portion of the region. And let's do another measurement. Now we're just now coming up inside of 10 miles from Miami. So, if you know anybody there, you know your neighbors have gone to bed early, you might want to wake them up and say, yeah, there's some heavy rain coming and the potential for some strong, gusty, straight line winds and some signals that there could be a tornadic rotation in the storm that's now about 10 miles to the north-northeast of Miami. And let's check with our friends from the Weather Service. Rotating wall cloud was reported just a couple of minutes ago on that storm. So, and it's had a history of producing some funnels, so maybe not necessarily getting to the ground, but this one is right on the edge. We got the bow echo, as we talked about, and then little rotation signatures within that. So it's kind of fighting with itself as to what it wants to do. And so we're going to wait a couple more minutes, obviously, to see if they extend that warning. While we wait on that, we can go back to our advisories. So currently, severe thunderstorm watch, all the counties in pink. Texas County, by the way, you've been cleared. And then Stratford and Dumas, you've been cleared as well. Spearman, Borger, Perryton, still continuing with the severe thunderstorm watch until noontime. The yellow boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings, and the red box is currently that one single tornado warning that goes for another 19 minutes until 9:30, but I think we're getting an update on that probably earlier. Lipscomb County, still some heavy rain. There's a severe thunderstorm warning there. And so we'll go back to our radar, and we'll check on the velocity here in just a second as well. That's our storm, tornado warned storm. Potential rotation, potential straight line winds. Yeah, this is getting out ahead again. Let's kind of stop that right there and do another measurement. New severe thunderstorm warning. See the box that just came? Stand by. New severe thunderstorm warning does include Miami. So now Miami, you are officially under a severe thunderstorm warning. It goes almost to Briscoe, and it does not include Pampa. It's east of Pampa. And so now severe thunderstorm warning, straight line winds could go up to 70 miles per hour, and we could get some 2 to 2.5 inch hail out of that storm. Yeah, it looks like it's going to wrap up again. Definitely want to start to pay very, very close attention in Miami for a couple of reasons. Not tornado warning just yet, but now as you look at the areas of yellow and orange, and let me loop it, see how that's getting in there a little faster. The outflow boundary, the outflow from that cell is now racing out ahead of the storm, and it's providing lift that is creating new updrafts and new areas of rain. So the rain is going to get to Miami here in the next 5 minutes or less, maybe a little earlier than we had originally said. The rotation is still probably now 8 to 9 miles to the north-northwest of town, but that rotation is still there and looks significant on radar. It's not it's widening a little bit. It's not particularly strong, but it's still enough there to warrant perhaps a new tornado warning. Here's a report in the chat from Chasers on 283 near that circulation. Rising scud, but no tornado. So that's kind of verified. We get some Chasers, get some visual confirmation of what we're talking about. So the Weather Service will decide here in a couple of minutes whether or not they want to extend that warning. I have a feeling they might. And on its current trajectory, it'll come near and just to the west or northwest of Miami. But that is going to be maybe closer to 10 to 12, 13 minutes away. But new images continue to come in. It is rotating. Well, let's go to the velocity product. I can show you. It is rotating clearly, but we don't see a real tight, what we call gate-to-gate shear right now. What that means is bright, bright red next to bright, bright green, pixel to pixel. I'll try and draw some in here. See right here we have a separation between those two things. And so that's good news in that the storm is rotating. And I apologize that that keeps disappearing, but the storm is definitely rotating, but it is not tightly rotating. The mesocyclone is not tight. It could tighten up, but for the moment, we're not seeing that. And I'll go back to the velocity, I'm sorry, to the reflectivity, since we keep losing that velocity product. I have other sources to look at that, so I'm keeping an eye, obviously, on it. But the new severe thunderstorm warning goes further south. It does include Miami, does not include Pampa, Briscoe to the west and northwest, Mobetti, you are not included. While we're waiting on the Weather Service for that new potential warning, let's go back and check on some other heavy raining cells across Lipscomb County. And we'll loop that. In Lipscomb, rain has ended. If you've noticed that, you're done. In Higgins, you'll get a brief period of heavy rain, probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes at the outside. Those seem to be weakening a little bit, but that's going to be some moderate rain, some swirly, gusty winds, could be 40, 45, even close to 50 miles per hour in Higgins within the next 5 to 10 minutes. That is basically it, other than this other heavy raining cell out in open country moving on to the southeast. I think that one's going to have a really hard time strengthening as far as any tornadic rotation. Certainly some rain and some hail, but given the activity that's come through prior to that, and there are some new cells, look at that. Perryton, you've had them all around you tonight, but I think that we'll probably have seen some stabilization there east and southeast of town that could keep this from being particularly strong. But from Perryton, please don't travel off to the northeast if you have any plans there, or quite frankly to the south, because some flooding in those green boxes has potentially occurred there. So we're pretty close on that rotation now. It's crossing out of the polygon. We'll hear from the Weather Service in just mere moments as to whether or not they're drawing up a new tornado warning. This one's right on the edge, as I said. Miami, again, if you have not checked with your neighbors, let's go ahead and do that now, please. If you know somebody in Miami who may have gone to bed or they're not watching anymore, let's go ahead and rouse them, because the potential is definitely there. Don't necessarily see a tornado on the ground north and northwest of town, but the potential is there, so we want everybody to be paying attention. In Miami proper, you're going to get some hail from this. I would say you have 5 minutes or less if you absolutely want to go out and pull a car in or take anything off the porch, you know, keep the chairs from blowing around, bring the garbage cans in, those kinds of things. I think you can do that here very, very quickly, but be ready to come back inside very, very quickly and only spend maybe just a minute or 2 or 3 at the outside doing that at this moment. So no tornado warning for Miami, but the potential again is still there. It is currently 9:17, Kevin Selly on News Channel 10 and our streaming platforms. We've got Facebook and our website, newschannel10.com, and obviously YouTube. So we're continuing to watch that storm in the now, I guess we'll call it the southeastern portion of Roberts County. We could see, if there is a warning issued, maybe the extreme southwestern portion of Hemphill County included in that, but the Weather Service will, oh, here's a new report from them. Some rotation that would likely be more rain-wrapped on that cell has gotten more organized in the last couple of scans. They are going to reissue the tornado warning for Roberts County. So we thought that that was potential was there. You're going to see a new red box pop up here in any minute, and that'll be a new tornado warning for Roberts County. I bet that one will go at least until 9:45, if not a moment or two beyond. And if you're just joining us here, I'm fighting a cold, so I'm taking a drink of water, and I apologize for pausing for just a minute or two. Okay, as I did that, we have a new tornado warning, as we mentioned, for Roberts County. That's going to be until 10 o'clock tonight. Miami, you're now within 10 miles or so of that new tornado warning. I'll get the text for you from the Weather Service. It is the southeastern part of Roberts County. It's until 10 o'clock. At 9:17, that storm was located 8 miles northwest of Miami, moving south, probably just a hair of an eastward jog in that as well, at 25 miles per hour. So again, we're talking now the potential rotation moving into Miami within the next 10 to 15 minutes at the outside. So all of our preparations should be completed at this point. If you want to go ahead and go in Miami, because the sirens may be going off, your devices may be going off, you're certainly welcome to go ahead and go to your safe place. What I would ask that you do is turn the TV up loud enough that you can hear, and we'll keep you posted on this, but not so loud that you can't hear what's going on around you outside. I want you to be able to know when the wind is picking up, that howling is picking up. If in fact we do get a tornado, that roar of the freight train is absolutely a valid thing. So I want you to be able to hear that, but also loud enough to hear the television station. So rain, if it's not picking up at your house in Miami, it will in the next couple of minutes. And the hail core is just a couple of miles to your north, heading southward. And we've talked about some of the storms earlier, had a number of pictures of easily quarter to close to golf ball size hail. And then the potential for 2 to 3 inch or even baseball size hail, I think, is going to continue within that particular warning. Pardon me. So once again, Kevin Selly at 9:20, tornado warning reissued for the east central and southeastern portion of Roberts County. Primary city involved in this approaching storm is going to be Miami, and then several miles to the northeast on Highway 60, and eventually southwest of town on Highway 60. So we get some farmhouses there or places there. You also want to be preparing for this. But for those just joining, if you know somebody in Miami, now you're under a tornado warning. If they maybe didn't have the TV on or their devices are not going off, this is the time, and this is proven in research to be extremely helpful, is for your own network to let itself know, let each other know if you have friends or family there by the phone. Get on the phone and say, look, this is coming. Turn on the television, get on one of the streams, and pay attention and prepare, because this tornado-warned storm is moving into Miami, and the heart of it will be there within the next 5 to maybe less than 10 minutes. New flooding information coming in from the Weather Service. They've extended the flash flood warning in Ochiltree County until 11 o'clock. We talked a minute ago, and I'll go there, new cells developing, so heavy rain and runoff is going to be a problem for at least a couple of more hours tonight. So they're extending the flash flood warning for parts of Ochiltree and Lipscomb County. Additionally, severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Lipscomb County will expire here in the next few minutes, coming up at 9:30. So let's go back to that flooding potential here. See to the east of Perryton, new cells developing, and quite a bit. So let's say you can see that's filling in quite quickly. I think that's going to be less of a tornadic situation other than heavy rain and some strong straight line winds. But in Booker, I think you got every reason to believe in the next 5 to 10 minutes your rain will pick up, and there may be some potential hail with that. Lipscomb County, a little bit of enhancement here just southeast of Lipscomb. See the darker red, rusty red color All of that's going to be closing in on Higgins here in the next 5 minutes or so. I bet in Higgins you're getting some heavy rain. It's going to pick up in intensity, and the potential for at least nickel size and a couple of quarter size hailstones is going to increase within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Again, that's in Higgins, right on the Texas-Oklahoma border for that cell that is approaching you from the northwest. Broader view, pretty quiet across the rest of the region. A couple of smaller cells now developing south of our main cell, and so we're into Gray County. These are not severe. Don't necessarily look like they're strengthening. If you get a rumble of thunder in Pampa, know that there's some rain around. It is not particularly heavy at this point in time. So we'll expand the view again. Rest of the Panhandle, both Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, will be pretty quiet overnight here. The principal threat for heavy rain is going to continue in the eastern and eventually southeastern counties. In fact, let me go to the computer model if I can do that, and I'll show you what we're expecting over the next several hours. Okay, so we've got obviously heavy rain, and this is now closer to between 9 and 10 o'clock, so a little bit from now, but that heavy rain is going to continue toward the I-40 corridor, mainly from Groom, McLean, eastward along 40. It's going to include Shamrock, so your rain potential will pick up. Clarendon, sure, yeah, you're going to have some rain. It's a little later on based on this model. We'll see if the severe threat diminishes a little bit, but after Clarendon, along 287 toward Memphis and eventually Childress, I do think we will see some weakening. Heavy rain, but the severe potential should really go down pretty quickly as we get on closer to the 10 to 11 to 12 o'clock midnight time frame tonight. Here's a graphical representation of that from our friends at the Storm Prediction Center. The yellow areas with a slight risk or that higher risk of severe storms, and the green is still a potential for severe, but lesser so. And if we look at tomorrow, we may yet have another round here of severe weather. A lot of it's going to depend on how the atmosphere behaves with regard to the storms tonight. So we may see some adjustment of this from the Storm Prediction Center as we get on into the morning. So let's go back to our tornado warned storm, get an update here, and I'm going to check on the Doppler radar and check in with our friends at the Weather Service. We're now just a mile or two or three from some hail in Miami. So you can see the rotation there, the darker red, and not the rotation, I'm sorry, the animation. The darker red and the purple is hail. The potential for a 2-inch or larger stone is there. I would almost guarantee some nickel to quarter size hailstones as that closes in on town over the next couple of minutes. And the potential for slightly larger hailstones is also there. Included in the tornado warning also. I'm going to check on the velocity product and see what we see as far as rotation signatures. Okay, there's some good news. We've been having a little trouble with the velocity product tonight, and so I apologize if this disappears again, but I want to do this so I can show it to you. And it's being a little persnickety. Okay, there we go. Good news now. Let me just fix this and hope that it stays. Doodle measurement. The strongest winds, no, it disappeared again. I apologize for that. Strongest winds are 5 or 6 miles to the west and northwest of town. There's the new image coming in. So 5 or 6 miles north of town, northwest of town, and moving largely in a southerly direction. Also, the rotation signatures, these bright red, bright green rotational signatures have weakened a good bit. So I think that's good news with regard to, number one, Miami and the tornado potential. Still some straight line winds, though, to 60, even 70 miles per hour are not out of the question with this storm as it continues to move due south. But for Miami, I think things are looking up in that the tornado threat, while not gone, is diminishing fairly rapidly. So if you in Miami want to cautiously come out of your safe place, you can do that, but I would really love for you to be able to go back there very, very quickly. And please, at this point, stay away from the windows. There's going to be some strong gusty winds, and the hail core is moving in. In fact, strengthening a little bit. We're getting some bright pink in there now. Still a couple miles north of town, but that hail, some of it is going to come in at an angle. And that's why we want you to stay away from the windows, because now we're talking about broken glass, things like that. And toward the outside walls, you've got the roof there, but the space is less, and so you get a larger hailstone that's going to dent or come through the roof. It's more likely along the outside walls to come through the ceiling as well. It's not quite that big at this point, but again, that potential is definitely there. So as we continue to watch this move to the south and southeast, heavy rain, some hail going to pick up in Miami. I'm starting to see another little inflow notch here. It's not rotating dramatically just yet, but I want to watch that. Good news is for Miami, that's 7-8 miles just to the west of town. So as that moves westward, then only the Highway 60, would be under threat there. And if you know somebody that's coming in toward Miami, you might want to fend them off or wave them off coming in from Pampa, because you obviously don't want to drive into this with that hail potential, the heavy rain potential as well. So checking with our friends at the Weather Service, and I'm going to pause a minute while I do that and moisten up my throat a little bit. Sorry for the cold. Okay, new update on our Lipscomb County storm. We're increasing in intensity a little bit with regard to heavy rain and potential for some hail. So that is some good news there. Let's go up to that storm. The hail potential, the tornado potential is the good news that I was talking about, but the hail potential is definitely there, really in a couple of spots. So let's go here and loop this a couple times. In Lipscomb, that cell to your southeast is moving away from you. The bulk of that looks like it will miss Higgins, but the potential for a few quarter or golf ball size hailstones is absolutely there in and around Higgins for the next 5 to 10 to 15 minutes at the outside. This line of storms that has developed to the east of Perryton is also moving in a southeasterly direction, but there are little cores in there. You see the darker red and the purple once again that may have some hail. Out in largely open country, but moving to the southeast, should stay to the west of Lipscomb. Glazer would be the next spot on the map, but that's still probably 20 to maybe closer to, 30 minutes away. Back to our Miami storm. Just joining us, southeastern quarter of Roberts County is under a tornado warning, and that goes at this point until 10 o'clock tonight. It is 9:30. We have a heavy raining, hail-producing thunderstorm moving into Miami right now, and some spots have shown some signs of rotation. And fortunately, in Miami, I'd love for you to stay in your safe place for a few more minutes, but I think that the bulk of that rotation signature and threat and the wind core is going to move just to your west. So let's stay in your safe place, or certainly be ready to go there. Give it another 5 to 10 minutes at the outside, and then we'll go ahead and give you the all clear. But as we watch this, and if you're with us any amount of time, we always look for these notches, these inflow notches, to indicate that maybe there's some new rotation developing there. And I see one of those right in there in the center of your picture. Not where the arrow is, that's just marking the tornado warning. But that little notch that is right here, and then this bow is probably producing a good-looking shelf cloud. That's that rolling cloud ahead of a thunderstorm, but that can provide some strong gusty winds as well. So inside the circle, and then to the west of the circle, we got the potential for some strong wind gusts. But I want to watch that little notch, and I'm watching each new Doppler radar image come in. The Doppler radar is suggesting that they will certainly keep the warning in effect, but it's riding right along the edge of the warning. So the rotation signature, and let me try the velocity product just again. The edge of the polygon, or the warning, and let me see if I can get that notch back on there. I'm sorry, the warning polygon. Right there is the edge of the polygon. So it has reformed a new rotation signature right on the western edge. So I think what we might see in a minute is for good news for Miami, in that the Weather Service may actually reorient or extend this warning a little bit further to the west, and then eventually on to the south as well. So that's good news for Miami. That's less good news eventually in the next 30 minutes or so for areas to the east and northeast of Pampa. So no travel, please, in between Miami and Pampa. If you know anybody who's thinking about that, please dissuade them from that, and then prepare for some heavy rain in that area to come rolling on in. Pardon me. Okay, so we continue with the tornado warning until 10 o'clock in Roberts County. Checking with the Weather Service, they're going to have to make a decision sooner rather than later as to what to do with that warning and the new rotation signature. But in Miami, if you're not getting some heavy rain and hail, it may come in the next couple of minutes. The storm, thankfully and mercifully, the bulk of it is moving just to the west of town. So I'd love for you in Miami to go ahead and stay in your safe place. Let's give it another 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll probably clear you to come out of there, but be ready to go back, even though some heavy rain and some hail may continue. But once we get past the extreme wind threat, I think it's probably safe to come out. But that's going to be a couple of more minutes away. Continuing to watch Doppler radar, the velocity product, new rotation or at least strong winds on the western side of that polygon. So again, that's good for Miami, but not necessarily good for areas just to the southwest of town along Highway 60. Pampa, not under threat right now, but we'll see. Some of these have kind of been slowly developing to the west, or a little bit of a westerly, southwesterly component. So Pampa, we're getting to the point where we'll say, let's pay attention, but don't have to be under immediate threat right now. That's still a ways off. Number of individual hail cores on this storm, though. That's the darker red and the purple. 2 to maybe a couple of 3-inch hailstones, not out of the question. And that first one's going to move just to the east or west of town, and that's going to go across the highway really now for the next 5 minutes or so. Interesting point about radar, since we're just sort of watching here, is the pictures that you're looking at, you kind of have to think of them as already having already happened, right? The radar takes a minute or two to process and then be delivered to us. And there's a new image, reflectivity image with that brighter pink there. So that has already produced some even larger hailstones, and they are closer now by a mile or so at least to the highway than the radar image would represent. So south of 60, southwest of Miami, your heavy rain and hail is going to pick up here in just the next couple of minutes. So once again, update 9:35, Kevin Selly doing tornado coverage on News Channel 10, also our streaming platforms. New update from the Weather Service. I'll just read it as we go along live. Mid-level rotation on the Roberts County storm continues. We've been observing that. They're going to keep the tornado warning in effect, but no reports of any imminent funnels or lowerings. Chasers are all over this. And very impressive lightning with the storm, which if you're in Miami, you know that. But more lightning in some ways helps the chasers, because it's, at night, obviously, we need some illumination to be able to see the wall cloud or the funnel cloud or the tornado, if it does, in fact, get to the ground and develop. So lightning in some ways does help with regard to reporting, but obviously very, very dangerous. So we continue with that one storm. I'm going to pan out and show you the view. It's still, well, let's go ahead and do this measurement while I think about it. The yellow line is the highway, so north of Allen Reed. We are still about 30 miles away, that thunderstorm. So that's still some time. That's going to be quite some time, in fact, an hour or more before it gets to the Interstate 40 corridor. The computer models suggest that the severe threat with regard to tornadic rotation may diminish a little bit, but the heavy rain potential will continue, the straight line wind potential will continue all the way southward from near and east of Pampa through Wheeler to Allen Reed, Shamrock, Groom, anywhere along the Interstate 40 corridor. But that's a little later on tonight. That's going to be closer to, say, between 10 and 10:30 tonight. The current tornado warning for Roberts County goes until 10 o'clock. That's about 24 minutes from now. These have been moving a little faster than those warnings would suggest, and so the Weather Service will update that probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes based upon the behavior of the storm and its potential to keep rotating. So if we watch the motion in Miami, please go ahead and stay in your safe place. Heaviest rain and hail just to the west of town as that storm moves on to the south. And the rotation signature is probably now, I'd say, 5 miles-ish from Highway 60. Let's go back a little further out and check on our Higgins storm, just west of town. Thankfully for Higgins, which had a good bit of hail a little earlier this year. But that storm, the hail core, is going to move right over Highway 60. In fact, it's doing it now. The largest hail will be over there in 5 minutes or less to the southwest of town. These types of storms, though, can pop some hailstones outside of the main thunderstorm cell or the core. And so in and around Higgins, if you're not getting some hail, the potential for at least some nickel-sized hailstones, even up to quarters, is not out of the question. They would be fewer and farther between, but that potential is definitely there. So please, in Higgins, please stay inside now for at least the next 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. Back on our other sort of linear-looking storm, there's 2 large hail cores right on the Ochiltree-Lipscomb County border. And the southernmost one, this one here, right along Highway 23, thankfully showing some signs of weakening a little bit. Still some dime to nickel-sized hailstones there, though. And now a little further north, just to the west of Booker, we got a cell that's moving to the south-southeast, and so hail potential in Booker is going to increase here over the next 10 to 15 minutes. There's clearly some sort of flashpoint for development here that continues, some sort of boundary. So new cells may yet develop here in the southern parts of Beaver County, and then move in and around to the east of Perryton and some new ones there. So we're definitely not done with those. All right, our tornado warning storm, interesting now, got kind of a split looking here. That notch is of concern, but less so for Miami. But it looks like we got a new updraft there. Oh yeah, the hail core right on the west side of town is extremely large, and I think we're going to get a little cell merger between the 2 of those, which will actually increase the intensity as it moves to the Highway 60 corridor just southwest of Miami. So the warning continues, tornado warning until 10 o'clock, another 20 minutes on that one at least. I think we'll see some adjustment to that, though, from the Weather Service. And if you'll give me a minute just to take a drink of water and grease my throat, I'll be right back. Okay, let's try the velocity product again. We've been obviously having some problems with that. It disappears every now and then. I apologize. We'll get that fixed. But this is looking more like a straight line bow echo threat at this moment, with the exception of right here. That's still west of Miami. There may be some sort of a gustnado or tornadic rotation right there. But this is straight line winds that could go in excess of 60 miles per hour. I'm going to try and move carefully and not lose that image. But that wind core is going to move south. See, it's expanding a little bit. It's getting bigger. So the wind core and the shelf cloud that's likely associated with that is now about 5 miles north of 60. So I know there may be a couple small businesses, a couple of small homes in between Pampa and Miami that would be under threat for some very, very strong 70-mile-an-hour straight line winds. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit of analysis. Yeah, so easily sustained wind 30 to 40, gusting over 50 to 60 as that little wind core continues to come southward and expand a little bit. It may slow a little bit as it gets down toward the highway, but that wind potential coming across the county border into Gray County is going to be definitely significant. Pampa, you're still okay, not under any immediate threat, but would love for you to stay with us, and we'll keep you posted as that moves on toward the east side of town, and again, Highway 60. Pardon me. Back to our reflectivity product. Heavy rain, hail potential now right over the highway. Thankfully, Miami, I think, has been largely spared the core of the hail. If you want to send us some pictures later, once the rain ends, and that's going to be 10, 20 minutes from now, we'd love to see those through the app or through the website. You can submit hail pictures in and around Miami, but the heaviest hail cores right now are just to the west of town and crossing Highway 60 from town southwest, I'd say 5 or 10 miles. So obviously no one should be traveling there, but just a reminder, No travel southwest out of Miami or northeast out of Pampa right now, as this very, very strong tornado warned storm with the potential for large hail continues. Current time 9:42. The warning's officially until 10 o'clock. I think we'll see a decision prior to that. Here's an update that came in just a minute or two ago from the Weather Service. I'm just going to reading some of these things live. So if you'll bear with me, the tornado warning continues until 10 o'clock. Moving south at 25 miles per hour. Radar indicated. We don't have a visual sighting on that. With the large hail potential and the wind potential, damage obviously possible. Roofs, windows, dents in vehicles, tree damage, things like that. Okay, so that's the text of the update on the status of the tornado warning from the Weather Service. We'll go back to our advisories map, and we continue with the severe thunderstorm watch until midnight. Texas County, you were cleared. Beaver County may be cleared sooner rather than later. The potential for some stronger thunderstorms to develop there is diminishing pretty rapidly. But as we get into Texas, both Hansford, Ochiltree, Lipscomb counties, potential for thunderstorms, new thunderstorms to develop is going to continue. And then southward, obviously, through Hutchinson, Robertson, Hemphill counties. And then we've had Gray and Wheeler counties. If you were not paying attention, or you were paying attention earlier, Gray and Wheeler counties were added to that severe thunderstorm watch that goes until midnight. And then you can see the advisories. The green boxes are flood advisories that are currently in effect. That's mainly Ochiltree and the northern portion of Roberts counties. The problem with flooding, obviously, the rain may have stopped, but the runoff will continue. And so if you end up traveling later on tonight, which I hope that you won't, please do remember that the mud could have overtaken the roadways. Any water rushing across a roadway obviously has the potential to do some damage there, and you don't necessarily know. You could drive up on it and look at it and think, oh, it's okay, it's only a couple of inches deep, but the road beneath it could have easily been washed out. All right, onward back to our radar, check on our tornado warned storm, and then we'll tour the northeastern portion of the region once again. Big, big notch, but not rotating in between those two purple cores there. So good news on the rotation signature right now. That's not really tornado warning situation or tornado warning threat, but the potential inside of that notch is definitely there. But as I look at it, I think we're certainly improving for Miami. Let's go ahead and stay for just another 5 minutes or so, if you wouldn't mind, in Miami, in your safe place. But the rain is going to decrease, and the hail threat, as you can see, is sort of shifting to the west and southwest. Will that make it to Pampa? It's a little too early to say for sure. The potential's there. At this moment, I'm going to say no, but let's stay with the television station, stay with the stream in Pampa so we can keep you posted. That's still going to be 30, 45 minutes away from any significant update there. The rotation and the strong winds have weakened a little bit, and they're now on the extreme southwestern corner of the polygon. Good news for Miami, but that means that the Weather Service will have to make an adjustment to this warning here in just the next minute or two. Hail core is definitely increasing, but again, to the west of Miami. Pampa Police Department reporting very, what they call impressive, meaning I think probably frequent lightning. It is illuminating the shelf cloud and the lowerings, the shelf cloud, let me just stick with that for the moment, to the northeast of Pampa. Again, this is the Pampa Police Department reporting, so still a ways off, but they can see it coming. So we definitely want to start getting the word out in and around Pampa to start to be aware, turn on the television, get the app going, get the streams going, things like that. Especially for anybody who knows, may have gone to bed a little early, might be time to let them know in Pampa. The hail core right there in the center of your screen is really, really increasing, and the Weather Service has acknowledged that as well. I think some baseball-sized hailstones are in fact likely. Oh, and now here's a new tornado warning. So they've extended that, and that will go until 10:30. This is going to be important for the news department. We got a new tornado warning until 10:30. I'll stay with that since we're getting into more populated areas for the moment. Thank you. So the new tornado warning is a big one. Look at that. It goes all the way southward toward and beyond LaFleur's, not all the way to the Interstate 40 corridor, obviously. But that new tornado warning, let's go ahead and get the text of that from the Weather Service. It's Gray and Roberts counties until 10:30, and we'll pop up a little bit more information on that one. Gray and Roberts counties both under tornado warning and severe thunderstorm warning. Pardon me. The severe thunderstorm warning goes till 10:15. And Hemphill counties and Wheeler counties included in that. I have some, thank you, but I'll take some more. Lindsay's offering me some water, which is my favorite thing at this moment. Okay, so we're going to stick with it. Oh, here's a new post from Joanne Cullen at the Weather Service. Let's see. Downstream tornado warning. As tough as little evidence is that there was a tornado warning and no lowering, but there remains some rotation as we've been looking at on the velocity product, and it's still and continues to move into a very, very unstable environment. So what they're basically saying, and let me just read the rest of this to myself here, continuing the warning, hail threat is significant, 3-inch hail is absolutely possible with this storm. So again, we'll stick with the tornado warning. But what the Weather Service is saying is there is no immediate signal that there is a tornado. There could be something that we call a gust-nado that would occur on the leading edge of the shelf cloud. Those tend to be a good bit weaker. And they tend not to last too long, which is certainly a good thing there. Thank you, ma'am. So it was a tough call for them, but they decided because of the unstable environment ahead of it to continue with the warning. And so that means we'll stick with the live coverage of this and now start to focus in on Pampa. In Miami, we've got the hail core moving on by. I said I'd keep you posted there. Heavy rain's going to continue. The tornado threat has decreased dramatically. So if you feel confident in Miami that you can come out, I think that that's a fine statement, and I think I can go ahead and approve that and not say all clear. There may still be some hailstones around and some heavy rain, but if you've been sheltering in your safe spot, I think in Miami you can go ahead and come out of that knowing that you might want to go back fairly quickly. In fact, just to the northwest of town, there is a new cell developing. Let me zoom in on that one. I think the fact or the opportunity for this one to be tornadic is pretty slim, but that's why I'm saying, if you'll bear with me, I'm saying right here, if you want to be prepared to go back to your safe place, you can do that. You may have just seen that red box being trimmed by the Weather Service. So anywhere, and it's mostly open country, but anywhere northwest of Miami, you've been cleared from the tornado warning. West of town, that potential is still there. Not a tornado on the ground, not a reported one, but the potential is still there, again, from the Weather Service as that storm continues to move on to the south. In the notch, which is where the little arrow's pointing right now, I don't see a strong rotation there, but in those notches, boy, these little spin-ups can happen very, very quickly. They can be, 80, 90, 90-plus mile-an-hour winds, and they can come down pretty quickly and then lift pretty quickly, and they're extremely difficult to see because they're basically, if not completely, rain-wrapped. So the chance for a chaser to see that's going to be limited. So if you know of anybody or you are in an area on Highway 60 southwest of Miami, please do still continue to stay in your safe place and know that the hail core that you're probably experiencing right now or about to experience will last for another 10 or 15 minutes, and the potential for some extremely large hail in that storm going over Highway 60 is likely happening right now. Based on the current trajectory, I think Pampa should not be affected. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but if you look at the rotation or the animation, you can see that the chance for it to develop westward is going to be very, very, very limited. Now, as I say that, we see a new cell developing to the north. That one right along Highway 70 is not severe, but it is in sort of what we would call an untapped environment, one that hasn't necessarily been stabilized by the rain, so some strong development there, which would bring the whole thing a little bit further west, is not out of the question there. So Pampa, you are not included in the tornado warning. Further south, LaFleurs, Heaton, you are included, or those spots are included. LaFleurs is still well away from you, so I'd love for you to stay with us, but not under immediate threat. Yeah, it's a fascinating little bow and notch here. I'll draw in some markers for you just to get an idea. The bow that I'm talking about is this curve right here. And if you were to watch that approach from Highway 60, north of Highway 60, that's the kind of what we call shelf cloud, that low, angry, growling looking cloud is clearly leading that heavy rain. And that would be a wind gust to between 40 and 60 miles per hour. That's why there's a severe thunderstorm warning. Less likely that there would be a tornado. But the end of my arrow there, we want to watch that for some possible spin up. I just don't see that on Doppler radar right now, which obviously is good news. The wind core on that, let me try our velocity product again. Again, I apologize if it blanks out. We've been having some problems with that. But the good news component of this, as it gets towards 60, if I loop this for you, see how it's brighter red? I'm sorry, brighter green, and the green is darkening a little bit. There's still a couple of pixels that are brighter, but what that is signaling is that the friction is taking over a little bit, friction of the wind with the ground, and that the winds are weakening a little. So we'll still get a 40 to 50 mile an hour gust easily on the east side of Pampa and right along Highway 60, but I think that that weakening trend may continue, and that is good news with regard to any tornadic possibilities. Now, the hail core, and I haven't tried the new, let me try hail product here and see what we can get. Again, some of these products, I apologize for, we've done a little bit of change on the computer, and so some of these new products, there we go, are having a little bit of difficulty or maybe not loading quite properly, but this one we should be able to do something with. This is a hail size product, and I'm just doing a couple of things before I can query it. But if we go into that brighter pink area, there we're talking hail size, and this is suggested by the radar and the computer algorithms that measure this. But that pink core, 2.5-inch hailstones. Could there be a 3-inch or a baseball size hailstone in that? Obviously, yes. Right over the highway now, 1.3 or close to 1/2-inch size hailstones there as that continues to move to the south to the Highway 60 corridor. And I'll let you see the loop on that. So now that we know that that product is working, I'll go back to that a little bit more frequently, but still north of 60. And again, mercifully for Miami, it's well west of town, but the 2 to even close to 3-inch hail potential is going to move southward toward the Highway 60 corridor, eventually on toward Highway 52, but again, in between Miami and Pampa. So that is a spot of good news there. All right, here's our reflectivity product once again. This is the rainfall intensity. So the darker red and the purpley color indicating the heaviest rain, and there's likely some embedded hail in that. In fact, there absolutely is crossing the highway right now. Once again, for Pampa, I think good news is that that's going to stay largely to your east. The wind threat decreasing a little bit, but I think our friends at the Weather Service are going to keep that tornado warning going for a little while longer. We're coming up on 10 o'clock, and because of the tornado warning, we are going to stay with this storm. The news department is ready to go. We may or may not, depending upon the next couple of minutes, have them read a little bit of news, but right now I think we're going to stay with the tornado warning. New information from the Weather Service back in Ochiltree County, so we can go back up there. We've been talking about some new cells developing there, and we continue with the severe thunderstorm warning, but heavy downpours are continuing just to the east and southeast of Perryton through the eastern part of the county. These are not super strong, But since we've already had rain in those areas, the flooding threat's going to continue. You can see that brighter green box, especially along Highway 23, west side of 23, back toward Perryton. The Weather Service commenting that additional flash flooding concerns will continue there as that new cell has continued to develop. New enhancement on this particular part of this cell that is moving on through southern Lipscomb and Hemphill County. Right in the center of your screen, east of Glazer, that's a hail core there that is probably 1 to maybe 2 inch size hail. Let me loop that one and get a better idea. So Lake Marvin, still a few miles to your north, but your hail potential would increase as that moves to the almost due south, but a little east of southeast. So that heavy rain's now south of 60, and that hail is south of 60 out in open country there, and that is across Hemphill County. So hit and miss showers, some rumbles of thunder, some heavy downpours going to continue for a little while longer. We have our tornado-warned storm, fairly large polygons, southern Roberts County, and then further south into Gray County. In Miami, let's go ahead and let me do another little analysis. You've still got some rain, but in Miami, I know you've been wanting to know the tornadic situation. I think we're going to go ahead and say all clear for tornado threat. A couple of quarter-size hailstones are not out of the question, so please stay indoors. Stay away from the windows, but if you've been sheltering in your safe place, I think it's okay in Miami to go ahead and come out now. You're not officially in a tornado warning anymore, and the storm is continuing to move on to the south. So the rain will eventually, let's give it another 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes at the outside, the rain will start to loosen up. But the hail threat is diminishing, the tornado threat has diminished as well. But southern Roberts County, we continue to watch that hail core develop there, moving toward the Gray County border. And there is some very large hail there, right over Highway 60. Maybe some 2 to even 3 inch hailstones there. Good news is, as I look at the Doppler velocity product, we'll go ahead and do that. We spent a minute on this a minute ago, but see the brighter green at the beginning of the loop? That is 60 to even 70 mile an hour winds. But as that outflow gets away from the storm core, those are weakening a little bit. So that's right over Highway 60 right now and weakening, maybe some briefly sustained wind at 40 to 45 miles per hour, but that wind core is going to miss Pampa. The outflow boundary, see if I can blow right on that right there, the outflow boundary is, see that kind of gray line? That's coming into Pampa here in the next minute or two. 3 minutes at the outside. So a wind gust easy to 30 to 40 miles per hour, but the sustained strong winds are weakening a little bit, which is good news for the Highway 60 corridor east of Pampa. So that's our velocity or our wind product. I don't see any rotation in there, which is great. If that trend continues, we might be able to eliminate that tornado warning a little bit early. That'll be up to the Weather Service, of course. So let's go back and check on our hail. Just to give you an idea of the motion on that, we'll loop it a couple times, almost due south on that, but still a very, very large hail core along and north of Highway 60. Well, really getting over Highway 60 right now. So that is obviously a place that you do not want to be, in between Pampa and Miami, with the potential for 2 to 3 inch hail. Thank you for asking. Sierra has asked me about a battery change. I'm going to mute this microphone, folks that are watching on TV and on the stream, so I'll be back in just a minute as we change batteries. Okay, back with a fully charged battery. Checking with our friends at the Weather Service. Hail threat continues for Roberts County, as we have discussed, and it is now going to move into the northern, in fact, is moving into the northern part of Gray County. And some good news from the Weather Service. Rotation has significantly, as we looked at the velocity product a few minutes ago has significantly diminished, and the tornado threat doesn't look nearly as likely. So they're going to continue the warning for at least a couple more minutes, but the tornado likelihood has decreased a good bit based on current radar. This storm has not yet continued or not moved through a fairly unstable environment, so the potential for some kind of spin up is still there, and I think that's why they'll leave the warning going for a few more minutes. But good news for Gray County, especially from LaFleur's northward, as that storm will be approaching. Next is really the Highway 273 corridor through the central portion of the county. Pampa, you're okay. For that rotation of the strong winds to move that far west now, next to impossible. Other thunderstorm cells could develop, but in Pampa, if you've been waiting to see a tornado warning or get ready to go to your safe place, I don't think we need to advise that at this moment in time. Miami, rain has let up dramatically, as you know if you're in Miami, but again, we've gone ahead and said the all clear for any tornadic activity. A couple of small to medium, maybe dime size hailstones are still not out of the question, but that threat to Miami has decreased dramatically as the storm is now moving over Highway 60 off to your southwest. So that's the situation. Let me go back and give you, especially anybody that's just tuning in for the news, kind of an overall broad view. We continue with the severe thunderstorm watch for all of the counties in the pink. That will go at this point until midnight. Yellow counties are severe thunderstorm warnings. Green, good chunk of Ochiltree and northern parts of Roberts counties are flood advisories for the runoff that will continue for, or has continuing for this heavy rain. And then the tornado warning obviously now into southern Roberts County and the northern part of Gray County. So that's sort of the advisory perspective. Get you an update there. Let's go back to reflectivity. We still have some heavy downpours in spots, so I want to check on those briefly as we're not looking at a tornado threat to any particular populated area right now. This thunderstorm cell likely producing some hail out in open country will pass just to the east of Lake Marvin and south of Higgins and go toward the Texas-Oklahoma border. Other heavy downpours continue across Ochiltree County and the western portions of Lipscomb County. Let me communicate, and we're going to do this live with the news folks. Are you prepared to do some news at this point since we don't have a tornado threat? There's still a tornado warning, but I'm going to give that warning to the news folks, and I'll give them a minute or two to get set. We're going to go ahead and, oh, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and do this. They have replaced the tornado warning with a severe thunderstorm warning. Let me just read this. Core of Roberts County storm starting to show signs of decreasing finally. Decreasing the hail size to 2 inches, and also the rotation, as we mentioned a minute ago, is not as good. So they're letting the tornado warning go, but still a good chunk of Gray County is under a severe thunderstorm warning. So the heaviest rain, that hail core, the heavy rain core is going in between Miami and Pampa and moving on to the south. Next town possibly would be LaFleur's, and that's still probably 15 to 20 minutes away. So the tornado warning is gone. No tornado warnings currently. We're going to take a break and end the stream, and we'll come back and have some news for you, obviously during which I will have another update on radar. Thanks for staying with us here at News Channel 10.